Have you reached retirement age yet, or are you close? God has a really great plan for you, whether you are married or single or widowed like I am. You are unique, and He has a unique plan for you. And you think you can't start something new? It's not so. My name is Glenna Haupt, and I'd like to briefly tell you a little bit about the sudden change in my life. So stick with me. About the end of 1997, I'm age 63, and my husband is already retired. Shortly after that, January of 1998, my husband, age 66, died very suddenly. Our 40-plus years of marriage came to a halt. It was a very tough time. Shortly after that, 6 months later, my youngest son was badly injured on a highway accident. He was airlifted to the Morristown Memorial Hospital in Morristown, New Jersey. At that point, all doctors gave him less than 1% chance to live. But we told the doctors that God does not need 1% or any percent, and my son is still a very strong Christian, as are my other two sons. But you can think about this, the loss of a husband and the near loss of a son. You have difficulty coping. So I left my job with AT&T, and now my journey begins. A friend noticed that I was having emotional difficulties, and she thought, okay, the grieving process is really continuing. So she figured that it would be best if I started some volunteering, but far away from home, a different focus entirely. The place was called Cook College and Theological School. It was a college for training Native Americans in Christian leadership. I contacted them. They accepted my help in the office, and I had an amazing 5 months of experience down there. It was a completely different culture, a wonderful culture, full of great history and many sadnesses. I went home after that because my assignment was finished at that point. And I sat outside on the deck of my home and I said, God, would you like me to continue this kind of volunteering, because it was really a wonderful experience. So I said, if you want me to do this, please help me sell the house. Well, what a shock. The house was sold in 10 days at a very good price at a time when homes were selling. So I went back to Arizona and I did what I had done before. And the only reason why I had changed my location was because the school lost their funding, their financial support. But before I left, a group of volunteers that were working with me gave me a list of many other volunteering locations. So then an Indian chief at Arizona had come up to me and said, Glenna, are you interested in cooking for a camp of kids? And I said, of course, because I love children and I love cooking. So this was a camp for boys and girls, assisted by the Episcopal priest and his wife, and the place was called Standing Rock Lakota Sioux Summer Camp for Children in Bismarck, North Dakota. I cooked. I straightened the campsite for between maybe 18 to 25 children, and the summer ended. So back to my little list of volunteering places. The place that I chose that helped to select me as coming up there for office work was in Sitka, Alaska, Sheldon Jackson College. The college was attended by students from all over Alaska. And again, God was teaching me about a very different culture. And I was excitedly learning every minute of it. But as you can tell, Alaska gets a little cold and snowy. So I looked at my volunteering list again after about a year, and I said, God, could I go to a warm weather place? And so I was happily accepted, working in the office of a warm weather place. Upon my arrival, a man said to me, are you here for training? And I said, no, I'm just here in the office, working in your office. I don't know anything about the training. And he said, well, you've landed on a short-term missionary training base. It's called Youth with a Mission, or YWAM for short. and I quickly became aware of all of the campus activities and how meaningful this place was. It took me only about 1 month before I knew that I wanted to sign up for the 3 months of training and the 2 months of outreach in the Philippines. But what I had not told you just prior to this, before my husband died, I had lost 6 relatives in the space of a year and a half. My mother, my father, 2 aunts, an uncle, and my only cousin. My husband was number 7, and my son was nearly number 8. So I said, God, is there a party going on in heaven that I haven't been invited to? I really want to learn more. So I did take the training. But in one of the classes, I need to tell you a little bit of detail because it was the catalyst for my life up to the present time. The class was called Listening to God, and it's important that you know that I'm from a very traditional Episcopalian background. And toward the end of the class, the instructor said, go outside by yourself, take a pencil and paper, and ask God 3 questions, and then listen. So I went outside, and I did what I was told, and I asked God. The first question I remembered was, what do you want me to do in the next 6 months? So I sat there very dutifully, and very slowly, 3 words came across my mind. First one was teach, the second one was children, and I thought, well, this is nothing new because I had taught Sunday school before. But the third word, very strongly, was Taiwan. And I thought, that's it. This really doesn't work for me. I'm too old. So I went back in the classroom, put my papers down, and I decided it's lunchtime, I'm going to lunch. I saw my 2 roommates, and they said to me, we saved you a seat, come on over, grab your lunch. But when I got over there, there was a man who was sitting across from me, and the other 2 were all talking with themselves. So I said to the gentleman, could I ask you a few questions? And he said, of course, in his British accent. And I said, I'm in a class called Listening to God. He said, I know of the class. I said, have you ever been to Taiwan? And he says, matter of fact, I lived there for 17 years. So I said, okay, here's what happened. These 3 words came across my mind. Teach, children, Taiwan. Now, Taiwan, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. But the man across from me starts laughing. So I asked him, what is so funny? And he said, Glenna, you're sitting across from the only person on this base of maybe 500 people who could tell you anything about Taiwan. I'm the coordinator for all students going to Taiwan. And at that point, I nearly fell off the bench. God does speak. So what seemed like a very impossible situation for this senior citizen was now slightly scary, but a unique opportunity. I sent an email out to a church in Taipei, and I received an answer. And so in a few months, I was praying to God that he would get me safely to this island across from China called Formosa. And so what have I learned, and I'm still enjoying after about 11 years here in Taiwan? It would take more than this short video to tell you, but I want to give you the highlights, please. The elders are really honored here, and I've been very, very pleased to be with all of these Chinese women. They love spending time with you. Then the Holy Spirit turned a light bulb on for me about this teaching children. Because after about 2 years, it was getting more difficult for me to play games with the little children on the floor and do the teaching. And I wondered, did I really misunderstand God? Because it was a little bit more difficult than I thought. So after discussing it with the church leadership, I realized that God wanted me to teach children, but not as in age, as in knowledge of Him. Wow, did this change my thinking. So what I have done right now, I offered conversational English, Bible-based classes for teenage girls. I also offered an adult women's Bible study class and had an opportunity to share my faith. Materials that I use is a Christian website called www.biblegateway.com. It helps me because I can print the Bible stories in English and then in traditional Chinese. The class reads both languages. It improves their English, and it also helps to make certain that they understand the Bible story. The things that are happening with me personally, I'm learning just enough Mandarin to make the taxi drivers laugh. I can get myself back and forth to the grocery store, to home, to church. So that's a really fun thing to make me feel safe. I'm also learning about how the earth moves here and how I'm not scared anymore. They're infrequent earthquakes, and it just moves a little bit like this, and it's fun. I'm teaching Sunday school again, and I'm also helping to prepare a Sunday night potluck fellowship meal. We have maybe about 15 to 35 people that come, not just from our church, but from other churches as well. One of the things that's fun in church is when the pastor says, everybody pray, but you can pray out loud if you'd like to. So what do I hear? I hear German, Afrikaans, Nigerian, Arabic, Spanish, Hebrew, Chinese, Siswati, British and Australian English, Japanese, French, Russian, and I'm sure I'm forgetting of quite a few more. Can you imagine how that sounds? These people from all over the world getting together and praying to God in their own language. It's just a wonderful feeling of joy. I will tell you that I've taken too much of your time, but if you'd like to learn more, these are my suggestions. First and foremost, pray about it. God's hearing you and He will speak back. Think of places, if you cannot go any further than your own town, think of places like hospitals and nursing homes where people have very few visitors, especially nursing homes. You can also go to your church office. The church office will give you places where you can volunteer. And if you want to, you can also check the website, Christian Volunteering Opportunities. Put that in as your search. And I want to tell you, I've had a really wonderful time sharing what God has done in my life. I'm now going to be 78 years old this year. And you can do it. God will help you. Just try. Thanks.